All right, looks like we are live. What's up, everybody? If you are coming in here, you are very early. If you are in already, you clicked as soon as that went live, or you were sitting there waiting for us. Either way, we appreciate it. I'm Brandon Carney alongside Madi Kroll. I believe our names are flipped at the moment. However, I can be Madi for now. That's totally fine. There we go. Nice. Okay,
switcheroo.
no problem. So, Madi, got a very dare I say, exciting game tonight. Not really sure how to describe it. Divisional matchup at the very least. You got the Falcons and the Panthers. How are you feeling at the game?
How am I feeling about the game?
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a storm going on right here in Oklahoma. I don't know why I just got real hick, but it kind of cut out for a second. I feel like Falcons are going to pull this out. I don't feel like it's going to be much of a game. It's another Thursday night. It's football, so we're going to watch it type of game.
I totally agree. I think the Panthers last week, obviously the Cincinnati Bengals are a much better team than the Atlanta Falcons. They are several tiers above, but I think the Bengals kind of exposed the Panthers for what they are, what we expected them to be. After the quarterback change to PJ Walker, things were more competitive than we expected. And, I think, unfortunately, the Bengals exposed them to be the team that's probably going to just get blown out most of the time. The Falcons have a chance to do that tonight, although they are not necessarily a team game plan wise that are designed to blow out anybody. So we will see. But listen, they got Cordero Patterson back in the fold. And it should be an interesting game. I think it'll at the very least be competitive, be an interesting game to watch. So, it won't be one of the worst primetime games we've had. And that's a low bar. So I hope not.
Well, you also have to look at the fact that the Panthers fired another 2 assistant coaches. So they're now down 4 assistant coaches on a short week with a new interim head coach. Like you're flip-flopping your quarterbacks. They don't even believe in themselves at this point. So it's just it's not looking good for the Panthers.
Yeah, I made a joke in a video today that, Joe Mixon alone basically got 2 coaches fired. So things are not going well in Carolina at the moment, but we will see how they come out. They're at home against the Falcons, so maybe there will be a little extra juice there, but I doubt it. Maddie, do you want to give an official score prediction before we get into some? We're going to get into some questions for around the NFL, but we want to just get this game covered a little bit first.
Oh, this is going to be tough. I'm going to go. I was stuck on 27 last week, and I feel it in my soul. We're going to go like 27-9. Falcons.
27-9 Falcons. Okay. I'm going to go. I feel like this game will be competitive. At the same time, not necessarily a lot of points scored. I'm not sure. I have to see how that weather is because, leading into it, they were saying there is actually like hurricane holdover conditions in Carolina right now. The weather's not supposed to be great. So I'm going to keep it relatively low. I'm going to go ahead and say, oh boy. All right. Give me 17-13 Falcons. Low scoring game Thursday nighter. Hopefully it's still interesting into the second half. But I just hope this isn't one of those Broncos Colts type of games where it's just disgusting on both sides of the ball because it has the potential to be that. But
it does have the potential to be that.
I think with Cordero Patterson back, things could be at least a little bit explosive for the Falcons, or at least explosive by their standards. So, guys, we're going to get into some questions about other games. Like I mentioned, we have a couple in the chat already. But if you guys have any questions from around the NFL, it could be about your favorite team, about your fantasy team, about the Colts firing Frank Reich and hiring a guy out of a TV studio to be their interim head coach, who, he's very fired up about it. So maybe it'll work out. Who knows? But get your questions in. We want to talk to you. This is a chance to be interactive with all of you. But our first question, God, I can't escape this guy. How much better will Kyle Pitts be on the next team he plays for? So this is an interesting implication, right? It's talking about Kyle Pitts already going to a new team, which I understand people, thinking about that hypothetical because of just how little the Falcons use him. Listen, if Kyle Pitts is on a new team, it's not going to be for 3 years when his rookie contract runs out. So, and that's looking kind of far ahead. I think it's more so how much better will Kyle Pitts be when the Falcons get a new quarterback? Because Mariota is not a guy that is able to maximize Kyle Pitts' strengths. Or if he does go to a new team, just how will he perform when he has a good quarterback, whatever jersey he's wearing when that happens? I think he's going to be really good. I think he's potentially a little unmotivated right now. They don't use him a ton. He gets a decent number of targets, but they're not usually quality targets. Mariota's overthrowing him, or just he's the last read on a lot of plays. No, I still think he has the potential to be the freak that we thought he would be coming out of college. I don't think it's going to happen this year.
And quote, Brandon thinks Kyle Pitts is going to be a freak.
Listen,
I agree with you. I think that even if he doesn't play for another team, even if we're still watching him with the Falcons, I feel like moving forward, Kyle Pitts is going to only get better. He's going to be at tight end university. We're going to see him learn from the greats, Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, George Kittle. I think that this is kind of the floor. Everybody already counted out the Falcons this year. So I think that Kyle Pitts' future, it's so much brighter than what we're seeing right now. I was wondering where that jersey was.
I will have this for better or for worse, through the entire Kyle Pitts saga, his career, basically. So listen, I'm ready to rock that jersey if and when it becomes appropriate to do so. It is not necessarily right now because all he has done is make me sad all year. But hey, I get to watch him in an isolated game on Thursday Night Football. Maybe he'll show me something. I also have Deonta Foreman, Panthers running back. I'm also telling you guys this about my 2-7 fantasy team, so it really doesn't matter at this point. I'm playing for pride.
2-7?
2-7. It's not going great, Maddie. It's really not. So, hopefully Kyle Pitts can show us something, but no, I think he's got a bright future ahead of him. And he's the kind of guy, I've joked with my friends all year, like he is potentially the biggest bust I've ever drafted in fantasy football. And yet I am almost certain I'm going to end up drafting him again next year because he's going to be in like the 5th or 6th round. And I'll be like, yeah, I mean, I'll take the upside there. I have no problem with that. So let's see. Next question we've got in the chat is unrelated to this game, but do you think the Commanders are going to be better without Carson Wentz? So, I mean, we've already seen them play a few games without Carson Wentz. Maddie, what's your takeaway from Heineke, someone who you have a semi-personal relationship with?
You guys got me kicked off Raya. So no longer a personal relationship. However, he did message me back, so we're going to still go with it.
That's a win.
Carson Wentz is Carson Wentz. He's going to do Carson Wentz thing. I'm not a fan of Carson Wentz. We've seen what he can do. We've seen his risks. Taylor Heineke, not much better. The best bet is that the Commanders get a whole new organization, essentially. They get a new owner, they get a new quarterback, and things improve for them. Hopefully, that means Carson Wentz is gone and a new quarterback's coming in and it's not Heineke. But yeah, I don't see how you're not better without Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they've been more competitive and a little more stable without Carson Wentz, which isn't saying a lot. I mean, that bar is also really low. I think Taylor Heineke is better than people give him credit for. I don't think he necessarily has to be a career backup. I think he can find himself a starting role somewhere, whether it's, Washington next year if they don't find themselves in position to get a top tier quarterback in the draft, or if they don't get one via trade or whatever it may be. I think Heineke can keep that offense afloat, at least if they sort out the myriad of other issues that they have within that franchise. But you're right. They have to start elsewhere, Washington. And, they're starting to get there. That team is looking like it's going to be up for sale. Bezos and Jay-Z are potentially going after. I guess they added Matthew McConaughey to the mix too. I don't really know what kind of super team they're trying to make to buy the Commanders, but they're working on it. So I'm curious to see how it pans out. And, any quarterback's better than Carson Wentz at this point. I'm relatively confident in saying that. So
I agree with that.
Let's see. Thomas Darrell with last minute, but should I start Drake London over Chase?
Very last minute.
Drake London over Chase Claypool tonight. All right. So Drake London, obviously in tonight's game, Chase Claypool is not. I
say London.
I lean London as well. The Panthers are just down very bad in general. I mean, you have a chance to start a wide receiver against a team that fired their defensive backs coach 3 days ago. So, I mean, that's a pretty good option to have. And when you're comparing him to Chase Claypool, who, we expect him to play more, be more involved in the offense as the weeks go on with the Bears here. But I think I'd go with Drake London. It's close, but you basically have two guys who are very talented, have quarterbacks who aren't really known for their arms at the moment. And playing bad defenses. I'll take the guy who we know is at least going to play a full complement of snaps, which is Drake London. And I feel like that's the semi tiebreaker we've got there.
Here's the only downfall is we do have to take into consideration we don't have a strong quarterback and we do have weather. So when we're talking about a wide receiver situation, sometimes that gets a little tricky. But I still lean London.
Yeah, I think the Bears are going to go heavy on that run game as they have been the past few weeks with, Justin Fields now being their leading rusher week in and week out. And then David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert forming a formidable 1-2 punch. I think Khalil Herbert's probably the better back, but they're both getting plenty of work. Yeah, I think it's London by a hair.
And that Lions defense, it's actually not terrible. They have the potential to be a decent defense. They just haven't been playing up to their potential. So who knows what they bring this week? They're going to have to do something, or their coach is on the chopping block for sure.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So we will see what happens. And then Thomas doubling down with another question. Does Bran have apparel for every NFL team? No. So if you see a lot of my TikToks, my videos, I actually go with just the colors of the teams. I take a lot of my shirts and I flip them inside out and just kind of try and coordinate the colors as best as I can. Like I have this like aqua blue shirt that I'll use for the Dolphins, but then some of them I just have to default to black or white. As far as teams I do have apparel for, I'm a Patriots fan, so I have plenty of Patriots stuff. I have a bunch of Lions stuff that my dad got me because he's a Lions fan. I have a Chad Ochocinco jersey for the Bengals. I have Falcon stuff, obviously. And then I'm trying to think beyond that. I used to have a lot more because when I was in like middle school, high school, I just loved having random jerseys of random players that I liked. Mm-hmm. But no, I don't have apparel for every team. Maddie, what's your wardrobe look like as far as NFL apparel? Is there a lot or not much?
I actually have a decent amount now that I work for Heavy, just because I've shopped the store. So never in my life would I've ever purchased Jets gear, but I really love that Sauce Gardner shirt that we have on Heavy. I also have the kneecap soup shirt from for the Lions team. I don't know why I just said that so weird. The Lions team, like I don't know what football is. But I do have a lot of Ravens stuff. As far as jerseys, it's Ravens, Bills. I do have a lot of Bills things. Mostly all AFC teams that I've purchased.
Yeah, that's right. I actually forgot about the Heavy stuff that I have because I did get a few of their shirts before the season started. So I have, I guess, 49ers. I have a shirt that says, what was it? Trey Bebe for Trey Lance.
Uh-huh.
Man, I hope my guy gets healthy. I'm very sad. Man, that feels like forever ago that he got hurt. I have a Nick Chubb shirt that just says Feed Chubb. And then Ezekiel Elliott shirt that just says Zeke always eats, which was helpful because I had Zeke in a lot of my videos. So yeah, I guess Heavy provided me with a lot more NFL apparel than I thought I had. So
shout out Heavy.
Hey, I'll take it. So I'm going to address this comment, a little strange, but I'll mention it anyway. That's crazy, them not using him, and he's not a freak. This is about Kyle Pitts. He's not a freak. Why do people refer to people with degrading name? All right. The main reason I even mentioned this comment is because I thought this was my grandma at first. This is literally my grandma's name. I realize it is not her, and I'm glad because that's very heated take to have. Freak is an endearing term. Athletic freak, Linda, just so you're aware. He's got ridiculous wingspan, ridiculous athleticism. He's built unlike any other tight end in the NFL. Not degrading. Just wanted to get that out there. And then
Brand's also like a scorned lover in this situation right now, Linda. Yeah. He's had a lot of traumatic meltdowns over Kyle Pitts this year.
It's not great. I'm suffering not in silence because I yell about it on various podcasts and live shows all week. And then question from my own mother. See what happens when you move away. Fantasy team tanks.
I agree.
My girlfriend, who I moved here for, agrees. So, listen, has nothing to do with moving. It is merely an unfortunate coincidence. I drafted the team. I did everything before I moved. It has nothing to do with it. So it's just bad luck. All right.
Do we feel like there's like some karma going on from your videos?
No, I've made these videos making fun of athletes and football players and fantasy football performances for the past like almost 3 years, I think. And this will be the first time not making my home league's fantasy playoffs since 2015. And I'm very sad. So no, it is nothing to do with that. I'm just down bad about it. Thanks, Mom. Appreciate that comment, by the way. So we can get into a little bit of FanDuel talk. So, guys, we are running back our DFS contest at FanDuel.com/heavy. $5 entry, 150 entries total. So if you guys head there, you can try and beat Maddie and myself. I've already made my lineup for this week, and I can, talk to you guys a little bit about who I've got in there. I finished 20th we had about 97 entries last week, I believe. So I'll take that finish. Maddie finished 48th. Still got a little bit of money. Got her entry back, I believe. So, you can win some money in here. FanDuel.com/heavy. Come in and compete against us. I have decided that this week, after last week where I said Justin Fields seemed like a little too much money, I'm paying up for Fields this week. So that's my quarterback. He's against the Lions. I don't care what the price is. I'm going to go with him and build build my team around that. Maddie, do you have any quarterbacks that you're eyeing? Anything? I know you haven't made your team yet, but just roster construction wise, you got any initial thoughts?
I haven't made my team yet because I choked so bad last week. I'm putting a lot of pressure on myself this week, and I really wanted to take the time to sit down and go through things. I haven't had the time yet this week. I know who I'm staying away from is Josh Allen. I
Right.
sneaky feel like Josh Allen is out this week. I
Yeah.
don't think the Bills are going to allow him to play. I think Josh Allen would play. It's obviously not a serious injury from what we've heard, but you don't want to make it worse. We need Josh Allen in the playoffs, and right now we're in November. So I really think that they're going to choose to sit him this week. I sneaky kind of like Tua. That's kind of what I'm looking at right now, but I don't know. I also, to be honest with you, I really like Geno Smith. I'm just nervous about it being outside of the United States. I don't know how the travel is going to affect him. So there's just a lot of things I have to kind of think out in my mind.
Yeah, I totally get that. I feel like Fields, I'm hoping he rushes for, 200 yards again. That's my main hope here, and that he can just kind of anchor this team. Outside of Fields, let's see. So I went with Saquon Barkley as well. These are kind of the two guys I paid up for quite a bit. And then to save some money, let me give you guys a relatively sneaky name here. Jaylen Warren. I don't know if you guys have seen kind of the news on him or the talk from around the Steelers. Najee Harris is not himself. I think he's quietly dealing with an injury. He had sort of a foot issue before the season. They made it seem like it was no big deal. And then he just doesn't look like the same player to me. And I think he needs a full offseason to recover. And Mike Tomlin came out and said this week that, Jaylen Warren does have an opportunity to become the lead back this year. And basically he was asked, is that a possibility? And he said, well, we'll see if he writes that script. The fact that it wasn't an outright no that Najee Harris could lose his starting job this year speaks volumes to me. And this is kind of just a situation where I paid up for a lot of other positions in my FanDuel lineup. I will take Jaylen Warren at 5,300. The Steelers coming off their bye week with a chance to get him, more acclimated, more involved. I'm going to take the bait and, see if he can get, 10 or more carries and return that value. And I think the upside is potentially massive if he gets a lot of carries in that offense, because he's looked to have a lot more juice than Najee has this year. So that's my sneaky play of the week, Jaylen Warren at 5,300 on FanDuel.
I know McCaffrey's going to be expensive, but CMC is really high on my list this week just because the Chargers have given up the second most fantasy points to running backs. And who knows how Shanahan's going to use McCaffrey this week just to destroy the Chargers,
How won't he use him is the
How
real
won't
question.
he?
I expect Christian McCaffrey to line up at defensive back a few times based on just they've thrown this man all over the field. He's probably going to kick a field goal too. Then for wide receivers, kind of a mixed bag here in terms of prices. So Cooper Kupp, paid up for him. Juju Smith-Schuster, who has just gotten more and more involved in this Chiefs offense over the past few weeks. Seems like that rapport with Patrick Mahomes is only getting better. I believe he led them or was tied for the lead in receptions this past week against the Titans. Granted, the Chiefs did throw the ball 68 times. I don't expect that to happen again, but I do expect that he could lead or be close to the lead in targets every week and receptions. So I like Juju against the Jaguars. And then I got George Pickens. Again, maybe going to Steelers isn't the right move, but George Pickens with his, I believe, will this be his first game without Chase Claypool because the Steelers were on bye last week. So I think Pickens will have a pretty big second half of the year, and his price will probably only go up. He's at 5,600 right now, so I'm going with Pickens. And then to round out my lineup, I saved money at tight end. I went with Brock Wright, the Lions tight end, new starting tight end with TJ Hawkinson out of the mix. Didn't have a great game last week, even though Hawkinson was obviously already in Minnesota, but who knows? He's the starter. He played a ton of snaps. If he gets 3 catches for 30 yards, that borderline returns value when he's this cheap. Darnell Mooney in my flex. I kind of got that Fields-Mooney connection. Hopefully that, they can take advantage of that Lions defense. And then I got the Titans D at home against Mr. Unlimited, the savant of the Danger Witch himself, Russell Wilson. So we will see how that pans out.
Oh my gosh. Savant.
Let's see what questions we got in the chat. So BJ says, how soon should Ritter get a shot? After he also did say, I just saw a question up there, talk about them dirty birds. So Falcons. All right. Falcons talk. They're about to play a little bit of football here against the Panthers. So how soon should Ritter get a shot? I talked about this a little bit on the podcast. I don't think Ritter gets a shot this year unless Mariota really, really tanks his performance. He would have if the Falcons were, a 3-6 team right now, but they are firmly in contention for this division. And you just can't risk putting in a guy like Desmond Ritter who, you basically expect him to make a certain level of rookie mistakes. And I don't know how you tell a fan base to accept those rookie mistakes when you are pushing for a playoff spot that they probably didn't expect to be pushing for, the fan base, coming into the year. So I don't think he gets a shot this year. I think a full year of sitting behind Mariota and learning is probably fairly beneficial for him. So yeah, I wouldn't expect to see Ritter, outside of injury, get a starting shot until 2023.
I agree with that. We kind of knew through preseason going into the season, the chances of seeing him were very, very slim. And I feel like Smith has just kind of made that known that that's not going to happen unless something catastrophic happens to Mariota. But Arthur Smith needs to stay competitive in this division to be able to keep a job. So I don't think Ritter's going to be getting a shot this year.
Yeah, I think Mariota's he's just a safe player. He's the definition of a game manager, and he's doing enough because the rest of the roster is sort of overperforming around him and, getting the Falcons to be able to compete in this division. See if they hold on. I do feel like the Buccaneers will keep this close all year at the very least. This game against the Seahawks is a pretty big one. It's a pretty big statement game that they can make because the Seahawks have been playing incredibly this year. And then the Bucs down the stretch will play the Browns, the Saints, the Niners, the Bengals. A little bit of a tough stretch, and then finish off with the Cardinals, Panthers, and Falcons. So who knows? This division, I think, will be a dogfight coming down to the end. And then let's see. Huntley, also same question also a question from BJ. Huntley or CP? Definitely Cordero Patterson. Cordero Patterson should be in basically everybody's lineup for the rest of the season. This guy has shown that every time he plays,
especially this week.
Yeah, this week against the Panthers defense.
100%.
Yeah, and with a game potentially impacted by weather, you expect the ground game to stand out. Cordero Patterson should not really be leaving your lineup if you own him, unless you have some sort of ridiculous trio of, Saquon, Derrick Henry, Jonathan Taylor. I would even start Cordero Patterson over Jonathan Taylor at this point. So no, Cordy's an auto start, and especially over Caleb Huntley, who is, third string in the Falcons now. Tyler Algier, I believe, is above him, or even if they get similar amount of work. So that one's easy. And then let's see.
Do it now, BJ. You're losing time.
Yeah, really. Got a couple minutes. Let's see. From Chris, question. I'm a UK fan coming over for my first NFL game, Texans at Dolphins. Is there any advice you can give me about what to expect in my first game? Texans at Dolphins? Well, first of all, that's going
to be a dope game go to Miami.
Right. Yeah. You get to go to Miami, get some hopefully decent weather for that game. Unfortunately, you do have to see the Texans play. But hey, at least the Dolphins are a show this year, so you should enjoy that. That defense should provide pretty much no resistance on the Texans' part. So Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle can just run all over the field, and you can enjoy your time watching them run their little track meet. What to expect at your first game? I don't know, Maddie. You think there's anything specific that you should have expected a first game?
I have some first gamer tips, especially at the Dolphin Stadium. When you are in Miami, a lot of times, especially since it's going to be the Texans, they may not fill up the stands. What you're going to want to do is when you get in there, I don't know how great your tickets are, but if they're not elite, go down and seat yourself as close as you can down to the field, because 9 times out of 10, those people don't even come. And if they do, you can just kind of move to another spot. So upgrade your seats while you're there. Hopefully nobody in charge is watching this.
Especially if it's a game against the Texans, you would expect that one to sell out probably even less than any other game. So that game will be, what's that, next weekend? Yeah, next weekend versus the Texans. That's awesome, man. Well, have a great time. You picked a good year to come see the Miami Dolphins because, again, not great to show on turf level, but their offense is something this year. So that'll be exciting. Question from Henry Grady just says, start Kyle Pitts. Henry, my question to you would just be, what are your options? Because Kyle Pitts is not an automatic start at this point. I think we all know that. There are plenty of tight ends I would consider over him, none of which are available in my league, hence why I am, going down with the ship. That is Kyle Pitts. But there are plenty of other tight ends you could consider. For example,
kind of feel like Henry's trolling you right now.
Quite possibly, but I in good faith will answer with some other tight end options that I've liked this week. Let me just go to my league here, sort by all. So some low key names potentially. Foster Moreau is somewhat interesting to me. Darren Waller just got placed on IR. Foster Moreau could be a guy who is relevant for at least the next 4 weeks. Gets a good chunk of targets every week. Doesn't really rack up the yardage, but when you're down this deep in the bottom of the barrel of the tight end wasteland, you're really just looking for targets and potential. And I think Foster Moreau has that. I believe Hunter Renfrow also is injured now. So those targets have to go somewhere except Devontae Adams, or maybe Devontae will just get 35 targets a game. Who knows? I like Foster Moreau.
I also sneaky feel like I know that a lot of people aren't high on him, but I feel like if you can grab Hawkinson, he is going to be the number 2 target in that offense. I mean, his potential has skyrocketed now that he's with the Vikings. This might be a little bit of a tougher week, but we do know that without Matt Milano, do we know if Matt Milano is playing for the Bills this week or not yet?
I do not know off the top of my head.
If Matt Milano doesn't play, this sneaky could be a really good play for you to start Hawkinson this week. If you can get him, if you have that option, I would take him over Pitts. And then he's a good player to have rostered moving forward because, like I said, I think that he's going to be the number 2 target in that offense.
Yeah, Hawkinson, if you were to try to acquire him, he would be sort of I can't even call him a buy low because he just had his second best game of the season in his first game with the Vikings. But
yeah,
if you can go get him, if potentially the Hawkinson owner is a little spooked by the upcoming schedule, because you do have defenses that on paper look solid. You got the Bills, then you got the Cowboys, you got the Patriots, and you got the Jets. Those are the next 4 games. So if you believe in Hawkinson's potential production, hey, maybe you can go out and get him for somewhat cheap. Maybe you throw Pitts into that package and hope they bite. But it looks like Henry said he has Zach Ertz as their option. I start Zach Ertz.
Yeah.
Start Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz has been a consistent option for most of the season. His point totals all year. So in full point PPR, Zach Ertz has only gone under 10 points one time. Otherwise, he has been double digits every single week. You can't really ask for a lot more out of a tight end that isn't named Travis Kelce or healthy Mark Andrews. So go with Zach Ertz. Really no reason to trust Kyle Pitts over him at this point.
The only thing is, and the Rams have been the Rams this year, but they are only allowing an average of 6 points to tight ends, 6 fantasy points. That's coming from FanDuel. So just keep that in mind. Also, the Cardinals are struggling. That offensive line is struggling to do anything. So that makes me a little nervous also.
Yeah, let's see who the Rams have faced so far this year. So obviously Zach Ertz has played the Rams already. In Arizona, he had 6 catches for 45 yards. Not the most standout stat line, but it'll get you by in PPR. 10.5 is not the worst. And otherwise, I feel like that number may almost be a little skewed, the Rams versus tight ends, just because they have not faced any super great ones. So you've got Dawson Knox week 1, he's having a down year. The Falcons week 2. Don't have to talk about Kyle Pitts anymore. I'm done with him. Week 4, I don't recall if George Kittle played, but it was against the 49ers. Week 5 was the Cowboys. Week 6 was the Panthers. And then in the last couple weeks, they kind of got torched by tight ends. So they allowed 21.1 points to the 49ers tight end group as a whole. And then to the Bucs, obviously that sort of late game collapse where they allowed a touchdown to Cade Otton, who I will not start this week and will probably regret. So, kind of getting worked by tight ends a little bit lately, but yes, on the season, their resume is solid. We'll see what happens. I still think Ertz is the clear play.
I do too, especially I kind of forgot. We've mentioned it, I don't know how many times tonight, but the weather. So the weather in tonight's game makes me lean.
It's a risk. All you ever keep seeing about Kyle Pitts is all the air yards that he gets, which is awesome, except when they're not getting completed and then become a lot less likely to get completed in a game if there's bad weather and high winds and rain and whatever it may be. So let's see. Chris says, thanks for answering my question. I'm going to be in Miami for a week before and after the game, so I'm very excited. Love your content. Well, thank you, man, first of all, and I'm excited for you. I have not seen a game in Miami. I've actually not seen a football game in Florida. I've been to the Bucs Stadium, but never been to the Dolphins and never seen so I've been to the Bucs Stadium for WrestleMania a couple years ago, but not for a football game.
And that Dolphins team is exciting to watch this year. I'm super excited for you, Chris. This is going to be amazing.
Yeah, and let's see. We got a couple of questions. So Unknown Enemy says Colts play the Raiders this weekend. Who do you think loses? Who do you think loses worse? So
I kind of love that question.
Who do you think loses worse? So who's going to lose the game and look pathetic while doing it?
The Colts, I feel like, have already won this question.
Oh boy. So this is a tough one, right? Because the Raiders are a team that are on the verge of potentially firing their coach. The Colts went out and did it and then got an interim coach that has no coaching experience. I've talked about that several times now. Yeah, I picked the Raiders to win this game just because they're not dealing with major turnover right now. They're still just trying to get things right. I don't know if they can, but hey, if there's ever a week for it to happen, it's this one. I think the Raiders come out on top here.
Jonathan Taylor is not playing this week either, is he?
No, it looks like he's trending in the right direction.
Oh, is he trending up? Okay.
This week. Yep.
I didn't check that this week.
So they'll have him. But again, is he full strength? What does Jeff Saturday bring to the table as a head coach? I have no idea. And again, the Raiders, we just talked about Foster Moreau. The Raiders just lost two major contributors to IR. So I don't know. This game.
I will say if something happens and the Colts pull this out, there will be a Disney movie made about Jeff Saturday.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, he had that super inspiring speech. I'm hyped to see what he can do, if anything, because if
the Raiders, though,
if Jeff Saturday shows out for the rest of the season and can somehow, I don't know, maybe become their head coach next year, like their full-time head coach, it'd be an awesome story. I will say my expectations are low, but hey, I'm rooting for him. Why not? We love a good feel-good story, comeback story, franchise that he has a ton of history with, so it'll be fun to watch. But we're going to get into wrapping this up pretty shortly here. Just want to remind you guys one more time, FanDuel.com/heavy. Join our contest. Try and beat us $100 to first place. And trust me, it is attainable. You are not playing against any professionals in this contest. As far as we know, you're playing against people like me, Maddie, the rest of the heavy crew, and just all of our listeners. So we had our winner last week. He actually messaged me. Let's see if
did he? Good.
He did. I want to get his full name just to shout him out quick. Let's see. Ben Sandifer. He said, I took a random chance on DFS last week. Love the show. Keep up the good work. See you in DFS again this week. So B Sandifer is going to be running it back. Hopefully, we'll see if he can pull a little back-to-back here. But hey, one of you guys can also knock him off of his throne. Let's see what you got. And let's have a good time this week. I'll let you guys know my lineup and see if you can beat it. Maddie still hasn't built hers yet, so just keeping it on the low.
One more question that I saw that I want to answer really quick because it popped up earlier. Matt, Khalil Herbert or Brian Robinson? I'm going Khalil Herbert this week.
I totally agree. And as a Brian Robinson truther, I still agree.
I wondered if you were going to go Brian Robinson.
No, I can't go Brian Robinson. He's a guy I have hope for long term, but I think the Commanders, as much as I didn't want to admit this and didn't have any hope for this guy coming into this year, Antonio Gibson has looked pretty decent. I don't think this just isn't Brian Robinson's year. And Khalil Herbert's kind of on the other side of that, where he looks like the more talented guy in his own backfield, regardless of, David 100%. Montgomery being the more household name, the more established name. Against the Lions, I think you take advantage. If you had either of those Bears running backs, I would tell you to start them over Brian Robinson. Take as much stock in the Bears offense. God, that sounds crazy to say. As much stock in the Bears offense as you can against the Lions this week, because they should be able to score a decent amount of points, but especially in the run game. So
yeah, and Philly's going to do everything they can to keep the ball on offense, so they're going to shut things down.
Right. So, all right, guys, that will wrap up our live show for this week. We will be back again next week. This is a weekly thing for about the half hour before kickoff of Thursday Night Football. And then, of course, we've got the full Off the Bench podcast dropping every Tuesday. So keep it locked for more of our game picks, more of our rants, more of me probably yelling about Kyle Pitts. Maddie, any last words before we go off the air?
I will beat you in DFS this week.
Highly doubt it, but we'll see. All right, guys, we'll catch you next week.